Starting with Houstonic.live or HoustonITS.com. Click on the research up on top. Go to one of the letters. Go to the letter O. Scroll on down to CWOENS. Names first, then places, companies, other, and find Candace Owens. Click on Candace Owens. This article, today's show is really going to be focused on this article. New York Magazine, Intelligencer. The strange tale, social autopsy, the anti-harassment startup that descended into Gamergate trutherism. I'm going to read this article and do a quick summary beforehand. The engineered rise of Candace Owens to prominence, and I do stress engineered because we know how people can be promoted artificially through purchase views. We know how if the algorithms are rigged, then the algorithms don't allow for people to rise without it being engineered. You can't have it both ways. You can't have a worldview that true independent thought, effective thought, correct thought, breakout journalism is censored, but then at the same time say, look at this person because they have more views than anyone else. Look at this person because they have so many subscribers. Look at this person because of all of the wonderful super chats that they get saying that they're awesome. You can't have it both ways. If you have a worldview that says everything is censored, that natural rise is not allowed unless it's something safe like Legos or off-road bicycling techniques, then you cannot also say that Candace Owens is the best and most effective and the most correct outlet because she has the most viewers. If she was the most correct and the most effective and had breakout information, which was dangerous to the system, then she would not have the most watched podcast show, online show in the world. Similarly, I'm wearing a hat from GigaOhm Biological. You can go to GigaOhm Biological to provide some support to that channel there, because I'm going to borrow some concepts from Dr. Jonathan Cooey, PhD, not JJ, Jonathan Cooey, PhD. My friend who works in that channel, hopefully a friend of yours, because he uses a phrase often that says, if you believe in X, you do Y. If you believe in X, you do Y. Meaning, if you believe that the stovetop is hot, then you don't put your hand on the stovetop. That's pretty simple, right? If you believe that, if you really believe that the stovetop that you're pointing at is right now hot, you don't put your hand on it. Or if you need to touch it for some urgent reason, you put on a glove or whatever. But even then, a hot stove, a mitt is only going to last a few seconds before it catches fire. So if you believe in something, then you act a certain way. You cannot truly believe that the internet is fully rigged, but then say, look at this person. Look at how they're breaking out. They must be the beacon of truth. You can't. That is an impossible, illogical belief. If you believe X and you do Y, is Dr. Jonathan Cooey's statement. Also, if you believe that there is some banking family, some family that has so much money that they control all the banks, all the reserves, all the gold reserves, they control all the governments, they control the currencies, they control the markets, they control information about the markets, the secret information about where the secret future of reserves of energy are. That one family, they control everything. Then you cannot also believe that the system was incapable of stopping a couple of gay autistic, odd, international, startup, fat guys from creating PayPal and starting a new mafia that could bypass the system. You can't believe that. That means it started to happen, and then the banks, which control everything, said, well, you know what, just let it happen. We'll take advantage of it. Or it was created to distract. It's one or the other. You can't have both. You can't. So if you believe one thing, then you have to believe another thing, or you have to take another action. Now, if X then Y means it could be a belief system, such as you can't believe that Candace Owens naturally rose to the top if you also, as a starting point, believe the internet's totally rigged. Another way of looking at X then Y is if you believe that people die every day, and one of the greatest tragedies in the United States, as do I, of the lack of awareness of fatal drug overdoses and how it's impacting our demographics, impacting our family, impacting our economy, impacting, just go down the line. I mean, there are towns where you can almost fill a whole classroom with just the kids which have lost a parent here. These things shouldn't be happening. And I believe, I've never said that I have all the cures how to solve this thing. I've never said that. I've always said I don't know how to get to the next step without greater awareness of it. And given the severity of the problem, I can't understand why this is not regularly at the top of most people's lists. Not to mention, the drug epidemic and those deaths have been used to suggest dropping life expectancy as having been caused by other things. So that data has been hijacked to use other things. Again, if someone were to be fighting against the COVID vaccines for children, thinking they are unnecessary, then if they ever heard that the risk profile of COVID was calculated errantly using drug overdoses, fentanyl overdoses, they should immediately latch on to that and then use that to justify why COVID vaccines should not have been mandated or demanded or even preferred, if at all, for children. But they never do. If X, then Y. So as my part here, raising awareness, I've worked with a group to make available a vanity plate in the state of Massachusetts, OA, overdose awareness plate. It was not my idea, but I worked very hard and I dumped reserves, my energy into that, and we made it available. I've had conversations. I've been to support groups to talk about this. I've spoken. My actions line up with what I say are the problems and a potential first solution, what I believe to be that first solution is. If X, then Y. I bring this up all in the context of Candace Owens here. The drug issue will come up. If X, then Y. As I've said before many times, researching individuals is not to be seen as advocating that individuals are individually responsible for enormous fallout and tragedy and misallocated resources. I very seldom think that there is a system on Earth that is bigger or transcends any one person. Things such as movements towards new types of technology, new types of transportation, movements towards some types of government or away. These things usually transcend any one individual. Now, some individuals may play pivotal parts at pivotal moments, but usually these trends happen regardless of the existence of any one individual or the absence of any one individual. They are influenced, but usually they don't happen just because one person, it's not like blues music happened because one person, played a guitar one specific way one day. And if it wasn't for that one person on that one day, the whole category of blues never would have existed. I mean, that's absurd, for example. However, sometimes a study of individuals can yield a lot of insights into something far greater than those individuals. Some people are positioned at the right time or in the right place to be able to learn a lot about something much bigger than that one person. Dr. Robert Malone, I think, is a fantastic example of someone, or Dr. Joshua Liederberg, and hardly household names right now, although they should be, but I've learned so much and Jonathan Cooey has learned so much. Hopefully you have learned so much by just analyzing these individuals. And I think Candace Owens sort of falls into that as well. How much what has happened around her is a consequence of her own decisions, her own ideas, I don't know. I don't know how much, if any. I believe that she is a very hardworking person. I believe that she has a lot of drive, and all things considered, she definitely has a lot of a good set of capabilities to draw from. I mean, the ability to memorize certain parts of a script, her ability to improvise, her ability to act passionately, her ability to talk as if the ideas are coming from within. She has a demographic. She's a very attractive person. I mean, there's a lot of things that line up there, okay? There's a lot of talents that she has that she's pulling from. And I think she's also been fortunate to have some very good mentorship in that. So suggesting that the things that have happened around her are not because of her ideas or whatever is by no means at all a slander at all on her talents or her capabilities. I have two U.S. patents, which I only have because someone suggested I write them, and really that's it. Otherwise, I would have just written the code and submitted it. And that code probably would have been written by somebody else if somebody had my job. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool, but it's hardly something that would if it were taken away from me, how much would I really change? Not at all. I'm still the same person. If someone were to call out that, hey, that's code that you were just paid to write, or 10 other people would come up with 10 different ways of doing it and all gotten patents, that's cool. Doesn't change anything, okay? It's not someone may think that would be some sort of an attack on my capabilities, but it really wouldn't be. Although I could see how some people could feel that way, or some people wouldn't want to be threatened that way. Anyways, the analysis of Candace is timely because of the engineered rise of her views, and because I believe at this point in time she's been able to offer a lot of insights on other things. And I just wanted to highlight what a couple of those things were. Gosh darn it! If this pen doesn't write, that stinks. I wonder if this one has a little bit of ink in it. Yeah, a little bit of ink there. So Candace has definitely encouraged us to be reminded of the if X then Y belief. There's three things I have listed here that I'm not going to get into the details. There's a lot of little detailed things that we've learned through Candace, through this past few weeks of study of Candace. But there's three things that just, and they have relations to each other, of course, but are definitely interrelated. Candace has definitely sealed the deal, for me anyways, if X, then Y. Now, another way Jonathan Cooey has spoken about it, and I told him I'd make some clips on his videos, and I still haven't, is that Candace has, and another person of some visibility, Dr. Kevin McKernan had said this, of the Human Genome Project, is that he has had concerns. He's been worried about something called DNA contamination with respect to these new era of vaccines, intramuscular injection, transfections, for coronavirus, for COVID-19. And he has been on many podcasts talking about this, news channels, blog posts, etc. Now, if he believed that there was some error in the manufacturing of that product that was going to result in a lifelong and potentially even multi-generational contamination, disruption, damage, like multi-generational, species-wide damage of humans, why did he not do more about it? Now, I'm not saying he could have stopped it, please, but getting onto a little podcast that's watched by just a few hundred people, some guy named Tommy who lives in the state of Maine, I think, okay, and does interviews between playing video games and popping pills. How much Did he ever go on that show? I don't know what show he went. I don't think he went on that show in particular, but he's been on a lot of small shows. He's been on Danny Jones, which I think gets a few more views anyways. How much has that really helped stop it? Because it's clear that Kevin McKernan has access to U.S. congressional representatives, at the very least Johnson. I know he's been a regular supporter of who's that guy from Kentucky? Can't think of the name with the curly hair. Ran for president a couple of times. Again, I have a lot of names in my head, so forgive me. Sometimes I forget easy, low-hanging fruit names. That happens from time to time. And who has he contacted? We know that he's worked for the Human Genome Project. We know that he knows on a first-name basis Francis Collins, the previous director of the National Institutes of Health and director of the Human Genome Project. We know that Kevin McKernan was on the freaking Geraldo Rivera show back in 2000, at a time during that summer when the Human Genome Project near completion was being announced in the White House with Venter and Francis Collins. And he got an invite to that. We know that his father played a big role with respect to technology related to microarray technology. And it's impossible to believe that someone who has had so many connections has nobody to call. Now, maybe he did try calling all of those people behind the scenes. Maybe he has been furiously calling all of those people and begging them. And if they haven't listened to him, well, then either they are all corrupt, and he should be saying what his conversation was with Francis Collins and everyone else and why they're not listening to him, or they don't trust him because they think he's incompetent, which is also a possibility. Maybe he's totally wrong. Either way, what we've seen suggests that Kevin McKernan says one thing, but then doesn't do it. He then doesn't do it. So if X, then Y. And Candace Owens has had shows where she has been talking about Satanism and pedophiles related to Jeffrey Epstein controlling the world through banking and compromise. But who is she calling? Now, if you look at the record, Candace Owens has spoken in Congress. Candace Owens has interviewed Vice President Pence. She's interviewed President Trump. Candace Owens has been in the White House. Candace Owens has been in the Situation Room. Candace Owens has spoken in the Situation Room. Candace Owens spoke behind the White House press conference, podium. She has been places that most people, even people who have been, politically impactful and effective, oftentimes have never been. She has a list a mile long. She had a video where she brought Steve Bannon, the last person to interview Jeffrey Epstein, to the United States border with Mexico to interview him 5 days before Jeffrey Epstein died. 5 days before Jeffrey Epstein died, Candace Owens is talking to the last person, Steve Bannon, who interviewed Jeffrey Epstein before Jeffrey Epstein died, with like 20-something hours of unreleased videos. And Candace Owens is saying the problem is that there's people that she can't talk to and can't reach, won't release the Jeffrey Epstein files. Candace Owens' actions don't line up with what she says. Now, if she was, just someone without all of those connections, I could understand her frustration. I could understand her frustration if she's never spoken in front of Congress, if she's never interviewed a president or a senator or a representative or been in D.C. or have access to $1 million or married to a millionaire or a billionaire. If she's like knocked way down the line like the typical American, renting their house or having a house that they're underwater or they owe 80% on, if she's buried way down there with the rest of the minions, the rest of the everyday people, then that's one thing. But she has all the resources anyone could ever dream of. And she talks as if she's helpless. I'm sorry, she's not helpless. Her actions don't line up with what she says. So this is the if X then Y. And this is important because you can determine the genuineness of somebody if they say one thing but then don't do it. Now, don't act in a way that suggests that they actually believe it, and that they are true to who they say they are. Okay, if I was just still doing my job and every once in a while doing an angry tweet about the opioid epidemic, that would be one thing to say. Look, what do you have in it? Yeah, you've lost a family member, but what do you put into it? Well, we've put a lot into it after that. So, we line up. There's an alignment. If you have access to God knows how many millions of dollars through your family right now, not to mention your own podcast, and you really believe that there's children at risk today because of Epstein, who's been dead for several years supposedly, and pedophiles and everything else, what are you doing about it? Are you spending your money? You should be hiring researchers. You should be hiring a team. You should dump 50% of your net worth into starting an organization to do research on it, if you really believe that. And if not, then it appears as though all that's happening is you're part of a machine that gets more views, and a machine that says everyone should trust you because you're getting more views. Hence, you get even more views than that. So if it's visible that if you say X but don't do X, then that means one way of viewing that is being disingenuous and dishonest. Another way of looking at it is for people to realize that you are an actor, or in Candace's case, an actress. We've known that there have been paid actors for a while. We've known this. We've known that some people, secretly work for this organization or that organization. We know that we've almost accepted, many people, that mainstream media has many actors on it. They say what they're told. They don't actually do analysis. They probably believe what they're saying because they haven't, done any real analysis. And I apologize for the I hate you. That's actually part of the image of the article. It's not really symbolic. I hate you guys. But Candace Owens is an actress. And the more we have reviewed Candace Owens and so many other people who we are told to listen to right now, whether it be all of the Tucker Carlsons, the InfoWars, the Milo Yiannopoulos, the everyone that replaced everyone else at Breitbart, all of the vast majority of people who are making YouTube streams right now, the Tim Pools, it's Cernovich, it's all actors. It's all actors doing shows like a soap opera, getting into little organized fights with other people. And most of them are well aware of it. Most of them have made, they say X, but they don't do Y. Most of them have made no intellectual progress. No intellectual progress. We have experts saying that they are experts on, 9/11, September 11th. And here we are in the 25th year right now, and they still have not advanced to realizing that the Twin Towers would not have collapsed if not for explosives. They're still talking about who let the hijackers on the plane. They're still talking about it, that must be the case because a relative of Bush, his uncle or something, made a few dollars on a stock trade or something like that. No progress. You're allowed to have bad ideas, but when you realize your ideas are bad, you have to reassess and make progress. No intellectual progress whatsoever. 6+ years right now since the lab leak. No intellectual progress at all. Still talking spike proteins and biological weapons. Still not able to hear the role of supplemental pure oxygen, 60 liters a minute sometimes, giving people damage which was symptomatically identical to what they said COVID was, or SARS. Not realizing the statistical role of drug overdoses and creating a lower life expectancy and increased deaths, something which was then used to suggest we had a deadly novel virus. No intellectual progress at all. None. They will even interview someone like myself or Jonathan Cooey, and then within minutes, it's as if they never spoke to us. Meaning it's a total waste of time. No intellectual progress at all. Candace Owens has made no progress on anything right now. And now that we see that we can see her as being an actress. There's nothing we can say. I mean, we can say things that can maybe make it very painfully obvious that certain people are lying, and then we will see what they will say will change a little bit. But they're still always going to be in character, right? They're still always going to be in character. We can highlight an inconsistency. We can highlight a logic fallacy. We can highlight that, but all that will do is then re-improvise a little bit and make an adjustment, and then they will stay on script. And the vast majority of everyone who has probably 50,000 or more subscribers on anything right now is in that realm. They are actors or actresses. And if after all this time, if they still haven't figured out that they are being boxed in, then they are really just bad actors, really bad researchers. Because at some point you should realize, you should have the confidence to start testing the boundaries around you. Candace Owens is an actress. And the more I see her as an actress, the less I feel compelled to be, to be angry at her lack of progress. She's doing a job. And the role that Candace Owens is playing is a role. When we are mad at what she is saying, we should be mad at what the role character is saying. Sort of like, if someone in a TV sitcom, if TV show that you're watching does something that you don't like, you can't believe that Gus did something, whatever, on Breaking Bad. If you watched Breaking Bad, you don't like the way he handled a certain situation. Does that mean you hate the actor himself, or you're mad at what the role called for? And if Candace Owens is saying Egyptian planes, over and over again, as if it's some type of incredible insight about what's going on, it's just really distraction. You should be mad at the role. You should be mad at the people who wrote the script. It's disappointing she's going along with it, but if she decided tomorrow, I quit. If she got into an accident, God forbid, I don't want that. If she got into an accident, if she had to quit because of health reasons, if she had to quit because she found God, couldn't do the work anymore, whatever the case, started to make mistakes, started to slip, I don't know, someone else will come in and become the new Candace Owens. So to be mad at Candace Owens, the person in the Candace Owens show, is to really be mad at a fictional character. The more I see it like this, the more I realize why should I ever waste time trying to have any sort of meaningful conversation with other people. If you're watching your favorite TV series, you don't like the way it's going. Suddenly, you have this crazy dream, whatever, that the actor just looks at you, looks at the TV camera, and starts saying your name and having a conversation with you, and you have some dialogue with them about what you don't like. They'll say, okay, I'll take it under advisement, and then they go on. Maybe they change what they were about to say a little bit, but the script just keeps going on. You can't. Why are we having any discussion with people? We should be having direct dialogue with each other, or directly with elected officials, or people with some political clout within political organization, within the government itself. Not podcasters. Definitely not podcasters. They're all actors. They're all actresses. And the more we have reviewed Candace Owens and the insanity with which is being poured into saying, look at Candace Owens, be interested in Candace Owens, look what Candace Owens is saying today, the more it's become clear how it's all just acting, and it's just acting. It's all actors and actresses. Now, I don't regret a minute so far regarding what we've researched. Not at all. I don't regret a single minute, because it took a long time to get to this point. It's one thing to realize that a few people are bad actors or on a script, but to realize the majority of it is another deal altogether. That's a hard pill to swallow. Maybe I shouldn't be using that phrase, but that is a hard shit biscuit to swallow. I don't know. Think of something. So that's two. Now the third thing is a little bit more specific, and This is something I've been tossing around now for 2 years or maybe even 3 years. But now it is more clear than ever. And that is India. India is not the center of the world right now. I think the center of the world is in flux. I think the world, with all of the new technology and all the recent changes in demographics and competing agendas, is sort of in flux right now. I'm not really sure it has a real pure center. But without a doubt, India has the world's largest population. Without a doubt, they have the world's fastest growing GDP. Without a doubt, they have the world's largest workforce available for export that has technical skills. Without a doubt, many countries and many big companies are looking at them as a future hub. Without a doubt, they have demographic advantages that China does not have. Without a doubt, India is in a far better position than China is. Far better. Without a doubt, you can learn more right now about what's going on, big picture. If you were to choose one country right now to study about where the world is going, it would probably be to look at United States and India. I just listed two, but I think those two. United States right now, as an American, as a U.S. citizen, I'm going to do everything I can for the future of this country. Hopefully, all I know is it doesn't stand a chance if I don't do my best and have some good people in the fight with me. That's the best I can offer. Without that, it's in a tough situation. But as far as the rest of the metrics go, a lot of the advantages fall into India. So, with that said, Russia is still incredibly big and powerful. Tons of resources. China, their infrastructure is I'm so jealous of all the cool infrastructure in China. I'm so jealous of it. I am. I see, in the United States, we get excited when there's a small bridge replaced or there's a new Denny's built. There's nothing going on in the United States. Future U.S., if you were to evaluate the future U.S. in terms of infrastructure, it looks terrible. I don't see any investment right now. The only infrastructure I see invested right now, big time in the United States, is apartment buildings, which are then sold for investment value, crappy houses, which are built out of cardboard and paper, and aircraft carriers, which is basically infrastructure that can be floated off and sold. I feel very negative about infrastructure investment in the United States. So I look at China, and I'm very jealous because I think infrastructure is cool. I'm a guy. I like building Legos. I like building with things. I like carpentry. And I wish I was in an area that had a lot of cool infrastructure projects ongoing. I think it's great for national identity. I think it's great feeling for young engineers, men and women, to come up and to admire the great things that are being built and know what the future can be and how to improve and maintain. And I just don't see it in the United States, and it makes me very sad. But so there is many places to look at. There is definitely going to be finally some long-awaited turnarounds in Africa. But if you were to take one place, if you had to look at one place, and I don't think looking at one place gives you a really great worldview, but it should be India. And I see nothing happening as far as reporting going in India. In fact, the Candace Owens show proved to me that that there is a blackout right now, in particular in alt media, on ever even saying the word India. And I've seen how her role has been encouraged to say, Israel, Egypt, pedophiles, Epstein, France, etc., everything around the edges of India, to focus on that, but she never mentions India. So I've suggested a Candace Owens decoder, where if you want to learn about something important happening that day or that week, you take what Candace Owens is currently telling everyone to look at, which will, of course, be absence of any connection to India, because she won't even say the word India. And the people saying to watch Candace Owens, likewise, will never say India just doesn't even exist. Again, I'm not saying India is the center of the world. I'm not saying that everything's about India, but if one were to limit themselves to one other nation to study right now outside of the United States, especially if you're an American, it should be India. Without a doubt. Without any doubt whatsoever. It definitely shouldn't be Israel. And when you realize that Israel's future is its alliance with India, serving as the IMEC, the India Middle East corridor with India, the canal situation in Egypt, that's a big part of India's future. When you start looking at these things through that context, it's like, why isn't India coming up, Candace? Or anyone else that says to watch Candace. They just won't say India. And to double down on this, I don't know if Charlie Kirk is actually alive or not. I think that his assassination was not real. But knowing whether or not Charlie Kirk was or was not killed, spending your life, studying the splatter and the shadows on the shirt is wasting your time. If Charlie Kirk was killed for real, or if Charlie Kirk was removed from stage because of some national security threat, okay, what would be a big enough issue to compel that to happen? Would Erica Kirk wanting to make some money from Turning Point USA be enough to justify thousands or tens of thousands of people from around the world to be involved in some global, unaddressable, unsolvable assassination conspiracy? Would $1 billion be enough? I mean, we are led to believe that the Charlie Kirk assassination is the most impactful assassination since John F. Kennedy. In other words, tens of trillions of dollars. Nations are at risk because of this. So what could be big enough? And so far, Candace Owens has not mentioned anything that would even come close. I mean, DuPont's a $12 billion a year company. The DuPont family is very rich by everyday standards. DuPont family is, as far as overall U.S. wealth goes, yeah, they had a role in the past, but no, we're talking about something much bigger than that. If there's one data point that I can find on the timeline, it was Charlie Kirk making a snarky statement about Pakistan and India, effectively ridiculing both of them as high step in their way or something or other. He said it in a really funny way, actually. And I agree with what Charlie Kirk said, that, U.S. should just avoid that war, that both of those nations don't deserve any U.S. involvement. If there was one thing that Charlie Kirk said or did that would justify something so large to get involved, to kill him, it would have been his suggestion the U.S. avoid the India-Pakistan war, which perfectly aligns with the third point that I just made, never mention India. Now, do I think India assassinated Charlie Kirk? I don't think so. But the point is that if you look at Charlie Kirk's timeline, him saying the U.S. should disconnect with Israel is this, tiny. Him saying the U.S. should not get involved in Israel-Pakistan war is larger than life. Really. That's huge. I mean, Pakistan-India war. That's huge. That's the one thing that would meet that criteria. And as part of this never mention India role, I believe Candace Owens has played a big part in getting everyone to look everywhere else, anything else which can get them to not think about India for another day. Kick the can down the road. Don't think India. Don't say India. She won't even mention people who are Indian anymore. It is stunning. So, and that is something which, if she was real, if Candace Owens, the actress, was actually Candace Owens, like one for one, if she really believed that one of her best friends ever, one of her mentors, her business partner, was assassinated for something he said, then she should look at the timeline of things that Charlie Kirk said and find the one thing that lines up with the biggest violation that would result in him being connected with the biggest pile of money. And the DuPont family is just a speck of dust compared to getting involved with India's future relations, its war with Pakistan. because now you're talking about also India's relations with China, India's relationship with Europe, India's support for the Ukraine war, India support using French weapons being now manufactured in India to support Armenia. You are involved in everything once you start talking about that. Not to mention, going back to what I talked about initially, the nation on earth that has the largest fatal drug overdose problem is Pakistan. How convenient for India that what we are led to believe is their enemy is having the biggest fatal drug overdose problem. That's strange because the number 2 nation is the United States, with many people dying of fentanyl with the components coming from India, something which the previous Trump administration was able to say, but ever since then, mainstream media and the Kash Patel, who's Indian, by the way, FBI are now issuing reports trying to get everyone to believe desperately that it's all China, that for some reason the only way China knows how to send fentanyl to the United States is through India. Did you know that? They say that, yeah, the fentanyl comes from China, but for some odd reason, the Chinese find it convenient to ship the fentanyl over the Himalayas and through India. That's actually what they say. Well, I actually think that that's bullshit. So these are 3 monumental things which we have learned through our assessment of Candace Owens, and they all kind of build on each other. India, actors and actresses, and if you believe X, you do Y. Among the most important tools or techniques to be effective at analyzing anything is to do a timeline analysis. And everybody and everything has a timeline. A timeline analysis is finding evidence and organizing it by date. Now, that can be complicated because, there can be a book that was released on one date that was changed on another date at a later date, like of the version 2. You could view that as 2 data points. Okay, here's the release date, here's the augmentation date. It's the evidence has to factor in the date that you found it as well as the likely date that it was originated. Evidence can include a book that was from, I'm just going to make up a date, 2006, a 2006 book that said something happened in the year 1995. And that doesn't mean that something happened in 1995, but it does mean that for whatever reason, that book in 2006 includes a statement of something happening in 1995. Most of the evidence that we have is text or video or audio or something like that. I mean, how many other ways can you collect it? And evidence itself, everything that is in the evidence that's captured is not necessarily true. But it is true that those words or that video was captured in that evidence at that time, and that also needs to be factored out. By collecting as much evidence as you can about things and creating a timeline, when things happened, you can see patterns. You can see when somebody might have came to an epiphany, when they came to an idea, when they changed how they respond to something, when something tragic may have happened to them, when they might have created an alliance with somebody through a business partnership. You can then compare timelines of different people to see if there's any potential interaction or not. You can understand the mechanical things that caused one thing to happen after the next. Without that, you just have nothing. Timeline analysis is so important, and everybody has a timeline. People changing position on things is not evidence of any type of crime. I've changed my position on all kinds of things as I've learned more. But because I am real, if X, then Y. If X, then Y. Now, the only reason why sometimes I might have changed what I've done in response to believing in something is because I believed in different things at different periods of time. You change over time, and that's appropriate. And Candace Owens has a timeline. And Candace Owens' timeline, which I don't know why, but almost no one else has done yet, is very revealing. And one of the powers of a timeline analysis is that you will become aware of terms, and you will then start to do compound searches that otherwise no one else would have done. So, for example, on my Candace Owens page here, all right, I captured the original Wikipedia page with all of its references. Blah, it's crazy. And then after that, we have in the year 2015, I'm going to scoot off to the side a little bit more here. I'm going to do a little quick analysis of this timeline, and I'm going to take a break, play a song, and then I'm going to read the article. In 2015, we realized that she was writing blog posts with this company called Degree 180, which is about, using social media responsibly or making a better internet or something like that. It's very left-leaning. It's very anti-conservative, which is fine. Fine. Okay. I mean, it's probably, you know what? It's not that I agree with it, but I suspect that it's genuine. I think that she really believed this stuff at this period of time. I could be wrong. I could be giving her too much of the benefit of the doubt. Now, there's evidence, which is hard to find, that back when she was in high school, remember, she's still pretty young, which was in 2008 or so, she had an experience in high school, and I can bring up a picture here, where there was some very threatening and derogatory things said about her, and she couldn't go to high school for a while. It involved the son of the mayor or someone who I think might have even become governor, and we can talk a little bit about that at some point. I don't know what to think out of all of it. Again, it's too easy for people to let their own, we all have prejudices, but let your own prejudice just run away with what happened. Because it's true that minority populations have been threatened and still are threatened. It is true that some people fake that. It's true both things have happened. So when you hear about it, I don't know which case this is. You have to keep an open mind. I don't know. What I will say, though, is that that event happened in 2008 or so. You're not going to find much after 2008. But as the articles show, she then went to college for 3 or 4 years. She then got a job with Vogue, Glamour, and met a few friends there, and then worked at a She then went to New York City, and she started to work in the administrative department, which means HR, of a hedge fund, where I don't know how much she made, but I have little inklings where she has said she made a lot of money. I don't know how much that is. A lot of money when you're in your 20s is not as much money as it is when you're in your 50s. So I don't really know what that means. Good for her, I guess, but we don't really have a whole lot of information about it. We don't even have the name of that hedge fund company. I don't think I even need it. But then she got a role at Vogue magazine, and then she decided to fund her own little social media company, this Degree 180 thing, which I think started around 2014 or so. And there's some blog posts which are very anti-conservatives, pro-Obama. That's fine. But then, because you assess the situation, you see that she does some videos at the early 2016, getting to know your CEO is of this Degree 180 company. So this is when the videos start to show up. And she says something very interesting in this video here. You asked, she answered, everything there is to know about Degree 180's CEO, including her not so politically correct favorite Disney princess. Feminists beware. That's not something that someone who is left-leaning or an Obama supporter would say. Why would somebody say like that? This is baiting people. This is baiting people. And that's not something that she would have said 3 or 4 months ago. So simply by looking at her blog posts, putting them in chronological order, and then putting the videos in order, it's okay, something changed. something changed between Trump as an evil tyrant, killing Native Americans, as what the white people did, etc., to feminists beware. I don't know what changed, but something changed. Now, in March 2016, the Connecticut Post, remember, Connecticut's not a big state, 3 million people. It's land-wise, it's not big, although there are some pretty big empty areas in it. I grew up in the state of Connecticut. Most of the Housatonic River is in the state of Connecticut. Candace Owens spent a big part of her life in Connecticut. She went to the Connecticut High School. The Connecticut Post runs articles out of the blue, highlighting Candace Owens and what she experienced in high school, and this vision that she has for this Degree 180 company, and fighting against cyberbullying. This happens within really just a couple of weeks afterwards. Now, the Connecticut Post, like other local newspapers, they're looking for stories, but the reason they found this story is because someone wanted them to write this story. So this story is there's a paid promotion element to it. There is. I don't know where it came from. It could have been Candace herself. She could be a far more intelligent businesswoman than I've been giving her credit for. I don't know, but whatever the case, they're now running these articles, giving her visibility. It's not like her company's making any money. I think it has no revenue, as a matter of fact. But now these things come out, reminding everybody about her experience. And here she is with the NAACP chapter in Connecticut, supporting her at some news conference. And she's talking about this future that she has of a website to help with social responsibility, Degree 180. And the way she's blogging on it is very anti-conservative. So this anti-conservative thing, and then highlighting that you were threatened because you're black. I mean, let's use some thinking skills, okay? These are not immediately going to appeal to people who are who at least stereotypically are conservative or right-leaning. This is a message, and this is a product that's probably more going to appeal to another political ideology. There's really not much in here. But then you got this one comment here, feminists beware. So I can't quite sort all of this out yet. Okay, I can't quite sort all of it out yet. But then there's another Connecticut Post. It's kind of the same article. It's just published somewhere different. This is in the Milford newspaper, Milford, Connecticut. Stanford woman creates website to tackle bullying, racism, etc. And it's interesting how this is being laid out here. What's happening here? Because then she does another video on March 22nd, learning about me. And then she starts a Kickstarter account in April of 2016. Now I can tell from the account status on Kickstarter.com that she created this Kickstarter account, or I should say she created an account on Kickstarter to start the Kickstarter fundraiser in March of 2016. So she's already set up, or was told to set up, the fundraiser in March. So she already knows at this time that she's going to be starting a fundraiser while these articles are being published. And that's why I say I think these articles are part of a planned rollout of some product or some message. And then there's this social autopsy. It's called the social autopsy product from Degree 180, coming out in the Kickstarter starting in April 2016. If you look online on newspapers.com, which is of course part of Ancestry.com, if you search for Candace Owens, double quotes, in the year 2017, there's not one reference of her in the United States of America. Not one. There's also, aside from the two local references in the state of Connecticut, not one reference to her in 2016. So Candace Owens is running a cyber bullying fundraiser, anti-cyberbullying fundraiser. She's in the New York newspapers. She supposedly made some money on Wall Street somehow. I don't really know how. Became an administrator, a vice president really fast. There should be some more references to her, but there's none. Having no references found, that doesn't mean that her name wasn't in the U.S. newspapers. What it means is that it's either shadowed or de-indexed. So it is not logical that there was no references to her at all anywhere in the United States of America and any U.S. newspaper in 2017. So this means, and this will be proven by my next point, my next exhibit, this means that somebody at Ancestry.com was paid to make sure that if anyone searches for Candace Owens double quotes in the year 2017, they will not find any of the articles about her. That means that means that this is an important time to know. That means that there's something in there to find out. The absence of information where there should be information is a sign that there's things to know. Always. When I see that one of the most powerful lawyers in the United States of America, Bill Gates Sr., has almost no U.S. newspaper references for almost his entire career, there's only one way to interpret that, and that is that it's been de-indexed. You can't delete all the newspapers out there, but you can only make it impossible to find through the search engines. When the only references to someone of historical significance, the only references that remain is that name misspelled, or how would you say, scanned in properly through bad character recognition, optical character recognition, that means that thing is important. And that is what I found that with other people. So I know that this is something worth knowing. In fact, for those people that are in the business of trying to hide the truth, I actually provide consultation on my show. You cannot de-index something without providing a sign that it's important. So by the attempts to de-index Candace Owens in 2017, and for the most part 2016 as well, aside from Connecticut newspapers, you have informed me what I need to find out. So thank you. Because the next exhibit only exists now because of what you did. So the next exhibit is from and this is the one I'm going to read today. This is from the New York Magazine. The New Yorker. I don't know if New York Magazine is the same as New Yorker. I should know this, but they ran an article, and it was published in early 2016, April 18th, 2016. The Strange Tale of Social Autopsy, and this is the Degree 180 company, the anti-harassment startup that transcended into Gamergate trutherism. So I'm supposed to believe that New York Magazine is running some of their largest articles in 2016 on Candace Owens, but somehow no U.S. newspaper mentioned Candace Owens in 2016 or 2017. I'm supposed to believe that? Really? I can't believe that. But you can't de-index everything. De-indexing something on Ancestry.com doesn't de-index it from the New York Times, because the New York Times has its own search engine. The Boston Globe has its own search engine. The Daily American has its own search engine. The Seattle newspapers have their own search engines. The New York Post has its own search engine. The Globe has its own search engine. The Indian newspapers have their own search engines. This is one of the problems. You can de-index something from one site, but you'll need to then subsequently go on to several hundred or maybe even 1,000 other newspaper and news article databases and de-index it from there too. You can't do it. So now that I can see that it's been de-indexed somewhere but not elsewhere, thank you very much. And the reason why I found it here is because I searched for social autopsy in double quotes plus and then 2016. I didn't search for Candace Owens, you see? So by ordering the evidence that I showed just before this chronologically, I realized that in the year 2016, this term, social autopsy, no space, was relevant. And then I start using Google searches and Bing searches and other searches that I won't tell you about, and Ancestry searches and so on, and then I find this article eventually, which I probably would not have found if I was searching for Candace Owens. So by ordering evidence, you then become aware of things which you should find from certain dates, which gives you another way to find things, because they probably de-index Candace Owens, but you can't de-index everything. So, with that said, I might have to take the hat off. I'm having a little bit of a headache right now. I'm going to be reading this article here. This is going to be my news article for today. The Strange Tale of Social Autopsy, the anti-harassment startup that descended into Gamergate trutherism. Give me a break for just a minute here. There we go. Smart Kulak, Houstonic.live, 3:29 p.m., Sunday, December 7th, 2025, episode 1420.
I don't wanna feel no more. It's easier to keep falling. Imitations of pain. Emptiness, all tomorrows haunted by your ghost. Lay down, black gives way to blue. Lay down, I'll remember you. Fading out by design. Consciously avoiding changes. Curtains drawn, now it's done. Silencing all tomorrows, forcing a goodbye. Lay down, black gives way to blue. Lay down, I'll remember you.
Always got to catch it right there, because that song ends abruptly, unfortunately. Hello. Hello, Artemis. Artemis, hello. Hello, Juanita. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Carrie. Hello, Vilma. Hello. Hello, Fletch. Keyboard hijacking, shorthand term used to describing the use of decoys for creating competing association with keywords. Hello, Vilma. Having good content right there. Glad you guys are having never trust computer software. Well, you can trust. I mean, software is written by people. It's just algorithms. I'm a big believer still in the capability of the internets, of digital communication. I still believe of its potential, and I'm very aware of how it works, how corrupt it becomes. I have a very long letter from a very good supporter here. Let's just say it is, I won't give the name, but let's just say it's 6 pages. And no, 7 pages. And I'm working through it. They asked not to have the letter read. And it's one of those letters where I'm as the paragraphs go down, I'm doing searches on some of the names, because I don't just read a letter and go, oh, thanks, throw it to the side. If someone is going to take the time to print out a letter, write it out like this, and send it, it's one of the reasons why I make it that little extra step. Because if someone is going to do that, then they're investing the time, and I think I can invest the time. But it merits some inquisition, each paragraph. And I will say that they, and this has been brought up by the chat by several people, so I won't give away this person's identity. But just a reminder that a man named Eric Garcetti, who was the former mayor of Los Angeles, went on to then become who was big, had some role with respect to COVID-19 PCR testing, was then appointed ambassador to India. Going back, again, it's not all about India, but if you're going to narrow it down to one thing, which with compound searches allows you to learn so much, because none of us are going to figure it all out. But if you really want to become aware of the scale of it, and if you're going to limit yourself to one nation, it is silly to be limited to France or even England or Israel. At least narrow it down to Russia or China or preferably India at this point. It is what it is. I'm not the person that set up those numbers. I also got some real angry response to talking about the abortion issue in India, which was perfect because, it's perfect because it perfectly aligns, I should say, perfectly highlights what I've been trying to say. How can someone dismiss the murder of 1 million female babies a year, either pre or afterwards? Let's put it this way. Of all the abortions that do happen in India, and I'm sure some are male babies as well, when you add it all up, there's 1 million more female babies that are killed every year in India only because they're female. I cannot think of many other tragedies on earth that are worse than that right now. 1 million. 1 million. And it doesn't just end there, because then you have 80 years where that generation with that gender imbalance is now going to live. And that gender imbalance impacts every nation around India. This is a global problem. The United States is a unique nation where I do believe the United States has some role to provide some safe harbor for the people who are at most threatened around the world. Okay. And let's look at threatened populations. Who's more at risk? Let's do a list. Who's more at risk? Let's actually just look at two groups of people. Is a 25-year-old, 2-degree software engineer in India who's struggling to find a bride more at risk? Or is the 40-year-old woman in Somalia who just had her husband and her 6 kids slaughtered and is homeless, is she more at risk? Who's more at risk? Who is less likely to live another 10 years? Who is in a situation to personally be protected and be most thankful for what the United States has to offer? I look at these populations of women who've had their whole families slaughtered in places like Somalia. Do you think anyone is going to pay for their ticket to come to the United States? No. No one's going to pay for them to get on a boat and come to the United States. I'm not saying they all should, but if we were to view U.S. as providing some refuge, to providing a safe place for people to anchor and to show thanks and to offer their skills to the United States, these types of things need to be factored in. I'm allowed to view entrance into the United States with skepticism because of that. Who paid for them to get on a boat and come to the United States? So India's decisions here have massive impacts on all other nations. And we need to grow up and start talking about this. And the fact that we can't even say India, you can't even say the word in alt media, aside from every once in a while talking about H-1B visas. The role with respect to India and COVID-19 is massive. I have someone, I don't know if he's going to be in the chat today. I actually don't know his chat handle, but I communicate with him, who has incredible insight on India's and Barack Obama and J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance's connection with a law firm that India works extensively with for India's initiatives within the United States and how they work with the United States Department of Homeland Security. Anyways, this is all stuff that other responsible who are trying to help you, see a bigger picture, a bigger worldview, citizen journalists should be telling you. If Candace Owens was not playing Candace Owens, if she was just Candace Owens, well, she may not be interested in this, but a real, genuine, independent person should eventually get there. I could talk so much more about that, but I want to, at the very least, get this article going. Otherwise, my vocal cords tend to wear out by 2 hours, and we're already an hour and 20 minutes in. So let's go. April 18th, 2016, New York Magazine, Strange Tale of Social Autopsy, the anti-harassment startup that descended into Gamergate trutherism. Heads up, there's going to be some swearing here, especially because I'm going to be reading some tweets. If you stumbled upon the Twitter account Social Coroner over the weekend, you might have immediately assumed it was being run by a type that's become sadly familiar online, the hardline Gamergater. If you spend enough time on Twitter or Reddit, you run into these folks occasionally, sitting at the far end of the obsessiveness bell curve. These are the dudes, and they're mostly dudes, convinced that a cabal of feminist social justice warriors, or SJWs, note that Candace was calling out feminism in just a month before this, convinced that a cabal of feminist social justice warriors, or SJWs, are controlling everything from behind the scenes, viciously targeting their enemies and punishing them for not towing an imagined wacko progressive line. Two common targets of this obsession, and broadly speaking, two of Gamergate's biggest, I don't know how to say this, bete noirs, I know I'm mispronouncing that, are the anti-harassment advocates Zoe Quinn and Randy Lee Harper. And indeed, they were exactly who Social Coroner, the account, on Twitter went after. So this is Social Coroner, at sign Social Coroner. The name of the account was Social Autopsy. This is an April 18th, 2016 tweet. Interesting, because this article was dated April 18th, 2016. I don't know how somebody writes an article including blog posts, or I should say Twitter posts from the same day, and gets it into a magazine. I don't know how that happens. But again, let's just put that aside for a moment. So the Social Autopsy service, which we are led to believe is owned by Candace Owens, or Candace Owens is started, said April 18th, 2016, "Too obvious, ladies, too obvious. As if either of you possess the self-control to actually, quote, block, unquote, me. You are on the sidelines waiting." So, for a large chunk of the weekend, the account came hard at both women, this Social Autopsy account, implying that they were part of a conspiracy that was about to be unmasked. Unmasked. I tried. At times, the account sounded like it was tweeting from a besieged bunker, with the armies of Quinn and Harper closing in. Quote, "Randy and Zoe, stop sending your clowns to try and scare us with legal hell threats. If you're going to serve us, do it already," unquote. It could be, unsurprisingly, hard to follow, but Social Coroner repeatedly asserted its superiority over its alleged tormentors. Quote, "I consider the constructs of our society thoroughly and often. I think analytically. Randy and Zoe really banked on my being dumb," unquote. And this is what the social coroner, the social autopsy account, tweeted at one point. Went on to say, keep sending your troops, Randy and Zoe, at another. Throughout, the conspiracy talk was thick. Responding to another user, social coroner wrote that, quote, it's literally a puzzle. The picture is obvious, but fitting the pieces will take time, unquote. Over the course of 2 tweets, separated by one in between, quote, everyone pay attention to the mentions. They are literally exposing themselves in the mentions. We can trace this all back to the origins, unquote. On one hand, yawn. Sadly, this sort of claims are dime a dozen on Twitter. On the other hand, Social Coroner is the official Twitter account of Social Autopsy, an anti-bullying startup that launched its Kickstarter last weekend. Last weekend, if you think of it, of this as being April 18th, we're now talking April 12th or 13th, year 2016. Oops, go back here. Okay. So the Kickstarter was announced and launched its Kickstarter last week with this rant against Quinn and Harper garnering it hundreds of new followers. Hundreds. So there must not have been many followers if it only gained hundreds more. Now Candace Owens gains hundreds of followers every 5 seconds. So it wasn't a big deal. Quinn and Harper of these two people of this Gamergate are very strange targets for an organization like this. Generally speaking, there is almost zero overlap between the sort of people who publicly and repeatedly denounce those two particular women and the sorts of people concerned with ending online harassment. What the hell is going on here? Very good question. Who cares? It is a strange, slightly complicated story, but it's also a useful cautionary tale about what can happen when newcomers wander into the weirder, angrier corners of the internet without first reading a tour guide or two. Candace Owens should not be involved in this at all. She's not a gamer, as far as I know. Why does she care? How did she find these people? And notice how perfectly they line up with what, the whole Breitbart, the new Breitbart, not Andrew Breitbart, but the new Breitbart, Steve Bannon, and the rest of the ultimate QAnon, 8chan, whatever said. We should all be afraid of everyone with colored hair. If you got colored hair, you're a freak. So they would say, we need to be all concerned about them and the feminists, and it's almost too perfect. It really is almost too perfect. I don't know why Candace Owens cares. I don't know how she found them or the account found them. But it's a legitimate question. So here we go. Social Autopsy launched its Kickstarter campaign on April 12th, 2016, billing itself as a way to catalog the abuses of trolls and cyberbullies. Its founder is Candace Owens, a 26-year-old woman with a background in finance who has painful firsthand experience with bullying. When she was in high school in Stamford, Connecticut, a classmate and former friend left racist death threats on her phone, sparking a local scandal that came to ensnare the mayor and his son, the latter whom was in a car with the perpetrator at the time he threatened Owens. So the son was in a car when he threatened Owens online or in person or something? Again, I don't know. I don't know what happened here. I don't think we'll ever know, but it's... I don't know. It baits you into wanting to be mad and skeptical at all accusations, which is terrible because people have been threatened because they're minorities, because they're not white and whatever that is in some situations. But then again, there's more than that. There are white people that have been threatened in black neighborhoods. Anyways, I could totally get lost. I need to stay on point here. So, continuing on. It's clear that these events had an effect on Owens. Of course they did, because that's her backstory. If they didn't, she has no backstory. Quote, the age of technology and social media has slowly disintegrated individual accountability, the consequences of which are devastating, unquote, she says in Social Autopsy's promotional video, made just a few weeks before this, which then rolls news coverage of a series of suicides that may have been caused, at least in part, by cyberbullying. Then she explains what social autopsy will do. She says, quote, "We attach people's words to their places of employment, and anybody in the entire world can search for them. What we are doing is figuratively lifting the masks so nobody can hide behind, Twitter handles or privatized profiles. It's all real and it's all researchable. You can say whatever you want to say on social media, but you have to be willing to stand by your words," unquote. According to Kickstarter, the company is seeking $75,000 in funding and hopes to launch 150,000 profiles. I have to say, 75,000 is, if you have a good idea, you can't get your own business loan. You have to Kickstarter it. Sometimes I wonder if people use Kickstarter because they want the publicity. If you go to your bank and ask for a $75,000 loan, or you get a couple credit cards, whatever it is you need to do, right, you're not going to get visibility. So I think Kickstarter is a way to ask for the money, even if you don't need it, or you could get it in other ways, and start a controversy. That's one of the benefits of using Kickstarter. So this is another one. This is from April 17th, 2016, which is what? Only the day before this article was written. And this one says, "I go to work on the blog piece, but to Zoe and Randy and their obvious trolls, I don't know. I guess this is supposed to be some sort of, again, it's stage acting. It is a sitcom. It is a soap opera. It's acting out a soap opera. It is a soap opera now between Candace Owens and a couple of women who like to play video games with colored hair. It is, nobody cares about this piece. People are playing their video games, they're happy, or they're getting mad. People are going to their jobs. But focus on this new soap opera between a startup in Connecticut with someone who was a victim of bullying and some female gamers who have colored hair. Look at the soap opera, everybody. Can you see it? Look over here. It feels engineered. Continuing on. The pitch. Oh, yeah. That's another thing I wanted to say here. So the cyberbullying topic, they love to talk about teenage suicides. I have not studied suicides. I have not been privy to many suicides. What I will say, though, is that teenage suicides in the United States, in particular amongst males, tracks very well young people dying of fatal drug overdoses, as well as people in their 20s and 30s and 40s dying of fatal drug overdoses. And I wonder if sometimes some suicides might have just been an accidental drug overdose. I wonder. So to be concerned about teenage bullying means to be concerned about teenage life. You're not concerned about teenage bullying because you just don't want people to have their feelings hurt. People have their feelings hurt all the time. It's terrible. It hurts. Makes you tougher. It makes you a better person. You're worried about teenage bullying because you're worried about teenage health and teenage life. That's why you would be worried about teenage suicide. So if you're worried about that, then you should also be aware that many young people are dying of fatal drug overdoses. And as far as I know, Candace Owens has never said, at least for the last several years, said the word opioid. She doesn't say it, just like she doesn't say India. Her job, playing Candace Owens in the Candace Owens show, it's called Candace Owens, it's called the actress's name, okay, is to get people to think about things which are really not at the top of the list. If you believe X, you do Y. If you believe teenage health and teenage deaths are on the rise, you'll talk about opioids, you'll talk about fentanyl, you'll talk about fatal drug overdoses, you'll talk about being mad, maybe even feel compelled to have to use drugs in a nefarious way or in a way that would result in a death of yourself, harmful way after being bullied. But she won't mention it. Hence, it suggests a lack of genuine belief in the statement that it's really about cyberbullying. And if it is, well, then maybe she wasn't aware at the time that the drug overdoses were as much of an issue. That's possible. But in 2015, she wrote an article telling people how to fake the need to get Xanax and Adderall. And she said in the articles they're addictive. She didn't say they're deadly. She said they're addictive. But she wrote articles that were kind of funny. She wrote it in a funny tone. Ha ha, this is how you get your Adderall. This is how you get your Xanax. If you believe X, you do Y. It doesn't line up. But that's what she's saying. Anyways, so, Social Autopsy launched its Kickstarter campaign on April 12th, billing itself as a way to catalog the absurdities of trolls and cyberbullies. It's, okay, did I already read that part? Yeah, I already read that part. Continuing on, after the second tweet that was shown. The pitch of Social Autopsy. Actually, let me play a video that I found here. I can play a video that is still available because I've been wanting to capture it anyways on the Kickstarter. Let me see here. Here's the link. I'm going to do a Control-C there, and I'm going to play it up here where I have the audio. There we go. Let's go over to here. And this is from the April 2016 Kickstarter, which is no longer open.
The human race has never been more connected. It takes a nanosecond, a mere push of a button, to share our ideas, opinions, and emotions across the world instantly. But for every cat meme your best friend tweets at you, or for every "I miss you" comment your grandma leaves on your Facebook wall, there are literally thousands of instances of hate speech being circulated online. Because when communication happens through a screen, and when moments are experienced through a lens, a terrifying extraction takes place. The age of technology and social media has slowly disintegrated individual accountability, the consequences of which are devastating.
Rebecca Sedgwick, the sixth grader, committed suicide last week. Authorities say she suffered nearly a year of cyberbullying.
Two girls charged with using Facebook to taunt and bully their 12-year-old schoolmate until she killed herself.
They say weeks of constant bullying cost him his life.
We are fostering a society of online bullying, social tormenting, and irresponsible sharing. With the ability to privatize social profiles and use pseudonyms in place of real names, it has been a free-for-all. That is, until now.
Hey guys, my name is Candace Owens and I am the founder of socialautopsy.com, the first ever search database that aggregates people's social behavior and creates real profiles for them. My team and I came together because we all grew up during this generation of the huge technology boom, and we understand the harm that social media like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter has allowed for, which is essentially a dehumanization. How can we bring it back to the if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all, or the old school say it to my face mentality online? Our answer was simple: through accountability. So what we do is we attach their words to their places of employment, and anybody in the entire world can search for them. What we are doing is figuratively lifting the masks up so nobody can hide behind, Twitter handles or privatized profiles. It's all real and it's all researchable. You can still say whatever you want to say on social media, but you have to be willing to stand by your words. We are asking for your donations so that you guys can help us expand this database. What we want to do is clean up the internet so that we can make it a safer place for the individuals that are coming up in generations beneath us.
So again, if you believe X, you do Y. Cyberbullying thing, yes, but I do wonder if some of the data is being misunderstood. I will have to assess that at some point. Well, first off, that's in a pretty stunning set that she's in right there. That's a multi-story apartment building somewhere. I can't tell where. I can see the windows there. This could be Manhattan. That would make sense. If that's a Manhattan apartment with those types of windows, then she's doing okay. Why does she need $75,000 for a Kickstarter campaign? That doesn't make any sense. The timing of the whole Kickstarter, the creation of the account, it happens so quickly. And it so quickly turns into this very visible altercation of Gamergate. It plays right into Gamergate. And the people that then reach out to Candace Owens after the whole Gamergate thing or her interaction with it are Steve Bannon people, Milo Yiannopoulos, Mike Cernovich. So she may already be online at this point. She already transitioned, if I may use the word in this sense, going from we can't wait till all the Republicans die in one blog post in 2015 to watch out feminists in early 2016. She's been hired at this point. She's employed. She's going to be part of this, whatever this thing is. But it's not really a left or right thing yet, but she's definitely on board. So at this point, Candace Owens is playing Candace Owens. You don't really know who Candace Owens is. Some people have met Candace Owens in 2008, 2010. But Candace Owens is creating the character of Candace Owens right now. Sort of like Seinfeld has created Seinfeld in a show. There's the real Jerry Seinfeld in his boxer briefs in the morning, eating whatever he is for cereal. And then there's Jerry Seinfeld who wakes up in the morning already in his jeans and shirt and his hair already properly structured, ready to eat a cereal from the color organized and alphabetized box of cereal on the wall in his fake New York City apartment in his show. Candace Owens here is suggesting that she is Candace Owens and that there's a real Candace Owens. It's not a abstraction of Candace Owens. It's not the stage name of Candace Owens. And the suggestion here, and this is where it gets really evil, and I'm not sure this is her idea, but this is what has happened, okay, is there are people who play versions of themselves suggesting that they are real. They're real because they need your money in PayPal. They're real because they have a Kickstarter account. They're real because they are telling you the truth. Mainstream media, you can't trust them because they just lie. And you can't trust anonymous sources. You can't trust anonymous sources because they're anonymous. But you can trust her because she's real. What she's not telling you, though, is she's also an actress. So you have actors and actors, Cernovich, Yiannopoulos, Candace Owens, playing versions of themselves which are not really themselves, but suggesting that those are the real thing, and therefore you should be able to trust it. Can you see? And that's evil. That's dishonest. She's not using her own money. She's already playing a part. This is already incredible camera work. There's something going on here. She's already a part of the show. She's already an actress in a sitcom. She is then ready eventually to make the Candace Owens show, playing a character that she created who's a lot like her, but not really her. Just like Seinfeld has learned, just like Roseanne Barr. You see Roseanne Barr in the Roseanne show? There's some similarities there between her and the real Roseanne. But it's a version of her. It's not really Roseanne. In fact, one of the first interviews that Candace Owens did when she had her Candace Owens show was Roseanne Barr. I think Roseanne Barr is a very smart person. She has her own demons to deal with, but Roseanne Barr was in this world of playing versions of yourself for so long that Roseanne Barr now has become a coach and a mentor to other people. That is why Roseanne Barr gets on the Joe Rogan show and so on. Not because they need Roseanne Barr's ideas. I think Roseanne Barr would rather just live the rest of her life doing something else right now. But she and others have become mentors in this new world of playing versions of themselves, which is bad enough, but it then suggests that you have to trust this cast because they're the real deal. And then other people will come on and say that they sold their homes and they raised money by burning shoe leather and this and that they're the real deal. You should trust them and because they're using their real sources. And you should then trust Candace Owens because she has the most views. Even though the internet, the books are cooked, everything's fake, everyone's censored, but she is now the most watched person because obviously, I guess, it doesn't work. The internet just can't control her. She's just beyond the algorithms, even though she says that she has nobody to call. She's spoken in the White House, at the round table, at the Situation Room between Pence and Trump, and she has nobody to call. to help deal with the assassination of her good friend, Charlie Kirk, a few months after he said negative things about the India-Pakistan war, and the U.S. should just stay put. Every single piece of evidence that has been suggested to show that there was going to be a plan in the works to kill Charlie Kirk, every single piece of evidence, every alleged Google search out of Israel, every alleged document, every alleged tweet, every alleged text message, which suggests that there was foreknowledge of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, every single piece of evidence comes after the day that Charlie Kirk said the United States should stay out of the Pakistan-India war. Every single piece of evidence came after that, meaning that those are breadcrumbs which are intentionally being put out there by people in Israel, I guess super Jews, who are so capable that they make all the chips and all the computers, all the search engines. They control all the companies, all the tech, all the patents, all the internet. They control everything, everywhere, every how. But somehow they are too stupid to use a search engine to do a search for the medical examiner in the state of Utah outside of Israel. Again, if you believe X, you do Y. It doesn't make any sense. She boasted about that, and other people pushed it. Whoa, the smoking gun! Unbelievable. Anyways, Candace Owens, I can't be mad at her. She's playing a role. And if Candace Owens said, I don't want to do this anymore, you know what? I just want to have a family, and I want to eat some donuts from time to time. I'm tired of having bulimia. And then having the fake teeth fronts to make me look unnaturally perfect. Okay, someone else will step in the role. There's hundreds of other people that are eager to do what she's doing. So to be specifically mad at Candace Owens is an incredible waste of time. And it took me a lot of time doing this to realize that. Also notice how dark it's gotten in my office because I'm next to a window. When Candace Owens does her live stream, she does it from a basement with no windows, so you'll never see a transition in lighting, hence hiding the fact of how long it actually takes to record those videos. Going back to the article here. Let's keep reading it here. Let's keep reading this article here. Again, this is from April 18th, 2016. I'm so glad I found this article from New York Magazine. Okay, so the pitch of social autopsy. To anyone steeped in the world of social media in 2016 is odd, if not ominous. Candace Owens is unclear how she plans to do any of the things she says she will, and listening to her description of a site that, quote, lifts masks, unquote, that connects people's names to their employers, it's not hard to come to this conclusion that social autopsy's goals include de-anonymizing people online and making it easier to dox trolls and harassers. And that's exactly how the Kickstarter pitch was interpreted by most of the people who saw it. The freakout was both immediate and predictable. A site that allows users to report people for entry in a database that will portray them as a troll or a cyberbully has obvious potential for all kinds of abuse. You know what else also has potential for abuse is weaponized piles of money that use people as actors and actresses pretending that they're the real deal, pretending that they're just themselves. And then other people suggesting that they're independent actors, pointing this way. I mean, that's what's truly evil, and be used for abuse. But we have to trust them, so they say, and they're the ones telling us that we can't trust the anonymous people. It's really quite stunning when you really think of that. Continuing on. In the days that followed, a rare degree of unity was achieved between various opposing factions in the endless internet culture wars. Gamergater and anti-Gamergate advocate alike agreed that it was a very bad idea, this idea of Candace Owens, and that the Kickstarter's lack of details, when it was launched, there was little sign the company had given any thought to potential privacy concerns, nor to countermeasures against the inevitability of reports leveled against innocent people. Suggested it was half-baked, potentially dangerous service that no one really wanted. I to interject, will say one thing. There was never an infrastructure behind it. I don't think there were ever any coders. It was a talking point. It was a conversation piece. It was just a concept that they floated out there to get the conversation going and to help lift Candace Owens to a position of visibility and someone that we should now listen to because she's the real deal. There was nothing there. It was sort of like the domain project of Robert Malone. He says he started an effort and ran an effort in the course of just a week or two to assess every medicine. And there was no source code at the beginning, okay? To assess every medicine ever made to see if it has effectiveness or value with COVID. He did it in 2 weeks, and they assumed the output was perfect. I guess if the output said you should, throw lighter fluid on your nuts and let it on fire to protect you against COVID, that's what people should do. No, people trusted the output implicitly because Robert Malone said it. We've never seen a line of code from Domain. It was just a conversation piece. It can't ever be seen because it's too heavily classified. You can just say that a computer did it. Here's the results. How do you disprove it? How do you even know the results are right? The response to social autopsy seemed, in short, like a clear instance of the internet, that is, the market for the service itself, rearing up and issuing forth a guttural, ear-splitting no thanks. But that's not how Candace Owens sees things, or the character Candace Owens. Instead, she's convinced the current online shaming she's experienced, including death threats. Again, death threats. Everybody wants to kill her. I mean, come on. And by the way, I fear at some point, I mean, how many times can you, oh boy, I can't even put it into words. Okay, because this is obviously baited. This is obviously a baited subject. How many times can you say that someone's going to kill you? And then with the Charlie Kirk situation, given what we know, was the best way to get away with an assassination is to not have an assassination. To have people pretend there was an assassination and then look like a bunch of fools incapable of solving it. That's how you get away with an assassination. Especially one that's done violently. When you shoot somebody in the woods in Ghana, you can get away with it and then say it was, oh, whoops, somebody slipped. When you give somebody a transfection agent that causes a growth in their esophagus and then they die of the treatment from esophageal cancer, like Tony Bark or John Wolfe, you get away with it. Let's be honest. It's impossible to shoot somebody in an arena and just get away with it with all of today's cameras, unless it just didn't happen. But if he was killed, he would have been killed for the thing that involved the most geopolitics and the most money, which would have been his comments on India, Pakistan, which is exactly why, again, don't say India. Going back to the article here. So, let's see. So the death threats, including violently racist language, delivered into her company's inbox. Of course. So how do we know that that's real? No, I should say, how do we know that someone really intends to do that? And the results of a conspiracy, possibly a far-reaching one, spearheaded by Quinn and Harper. So what? The people at involved in the Gamergate, they did it. Again, the story already gets a little confusing because of all the characters. There's a lot of other videos out there that I'll review the timeline and help clear it up. She thinks, and particularly she thinks they, meaning Candace Owens, thinks they, and particularly Quinn, are the ones sending her nasty email, or that they started the hysteria, which led to the inundation, at least. She also thinks, Candace Owens also thinks, they're operating a network of sock puppet social media accounts trying to take down social autopsy, all because they're afraid of what the nascent company will reveal about them once it's up and running. I don't know anything about this Harper and Quinn, But does it really seem to make sense that they're going to spend their time sending racist death threats and well-tracked, heavily backed up electronic email communications to Candace Owens? That doesn't make any sense. Even if they hated Candace Owens, you're going to take two senior programmers, people who write games, complicated games, complex multiplayer games that have to deal with lots of data and lots of data backup, are going to write heavily tracked, heavily backed up, heavily archived electronic email communications containing racist comments and death threats to Candace Owens? At the very least, give them some credit that they would, cut out the letters from a newspaper and then send it in from a mailbox somewhere. Yeah, you wearing gloves? I mean, come on. There is no actual evidence any of this is true, and yet Owens, thrust into an internet culture war she knew nothing about coming in, has misinterpreted, in particular in a cringeworthy way, various bits of mundane evidence as implicating Quinn and Harper. She has accidentally become a true believer in a common variety of Gamergate conspiracy, all without ever even really knowing what Gamergate is. And she's convinced she's about to break the whole thing open in a big blog post she plans to publish on her website, Degree 180, later today. Wow. This is an amazing article because this article talks about posts which are made in the morning of that day and then already went through the editor and then is saying what Candace Owens is going to blog about later that day. I don't know how an article like this gets written. It all started with an email from Zoe and Quinn to Owens on the evening of the Kickstarter launch. For the uninitiated, Quinn is the original victim of Gamergate. Her ex-boyfriend, Iran Johnny, Gjoni, effectively launched the entire online movement with a lengthy, vindictive blog post he published about her in August 2014, leading to a cascade of harassment and death threats that has never fully abated since. She, I guess this is Quinn, or maybe this is Candace, has expressed concerns about social autopsy. No, this would be Quinn now. Expressed concerns about social autopsy on Twitter, and soon an autopsy intern gave her Candace Owens' personal work email address. Quinn is co-founder of Crash Override Network, a crisis helpline advocacy group and a resource center for people who are experiencing online abuse. With the exception of a few instances in which she responded to individual claims below, Quinn said in a direct message statement she didn't want to comment on the particulars of her interactions with Owens. She said, quote, "It's unfortunate that the public conversation that could have been about the project and the underlying merits of different tactics of fighting online abuse has been largely hijacked by people acting in bad faith, hoping to cause a spectacle," unquote. The statement read in part. And it goes on to say, "and I have no interest in allowing myself to be used for that." So this is Candace Owens again. Keep sending the troops. So you can read the rest of it. It gets uglier, as you can see. I guess some people use just called Candace Owens a nigger, D. I don't know what that means. All sorts of ugly language here. Lots of F-bombs, lots of things that, ugly, horrible things that they are going to sexually do to her. I have no doubt that these posts are real, but how do you know? John Joe, who are these people? April 13th. I don't know. The whole thing is a mess. If you were interested, you could go to Wikipedia and you can learn about Gamergate. Are there some elements of this which are genuine and real? I don't know. But what I noticed right up front, Gamergate targeted women in the video game industry, most notably feminist media critic, Anna Sarkeesian. Now, that's the name that I don't see in this article here, Anna Sarkeesian. Anna Sarkeesian is Canadian and Armenian. And we know that the biggest supporter, Candace Owens, consistently has been Kanye West. And Kanye West, we all know, sang in some religious lake in Armenia in 2015 regarding the recognition of the Armenia genocide. And Kanye West also was married to Kim Kardashian and is a big part of, again, the evangelizing of and the awareness of Armenian genocide awareness movies such as The Promise, which was funded by Kirk Kerkorian predominantly. How does Armenia plays into all this? I don't know. I know that Armenia has a lot of has a fondness right now with India. I know that the former ambassadors to India are always going to Armenia, including Richard Verma. We know that there's a lot of very odd crossover. The founder of Moderna is Armenian, American Armenian. There's a weird thread here with Armenia as well. Armenia genocide awareness. And as we've noticed in our previous show, why is it that the murder of up to 1 million Armenians in war, which maybe was targeted by race or religion, I don't know, maybe not. Why does that get a UN recognition? It is a tragedy, and it's 1 million lives. It is a horrible tragedy, but why does that get put on the pedestal as the worst crime against humanity? But 50 to 75 million female babies are killed in India over the last 35 to 40 years only because they're female. And that is viewed as, well, that's just a cultural thing. What are you going to do? How can I take all of this genocide awareness seriously if it has no concern at all over the mass killing of females in a country? Shouldn't everyone who is for female rights be screaming right now? There are more women killed as babies in India because they're female than there have been women born in the United States in the last 50 years. But no one gives a shit. I guess it's not genocide. It's just one of those cultural things. Oh, well. So to have a real, all-encompassing, conclusive, meaningful conversation about where people are moving in the world, where the pressure is for people to move to, for the jobs for people to have, where companies should be located, etc. No one wants to do it. Instead, it's just Jeffrey Epstein. And who right now is a big part of Jeffrey Epstein? Candace Owens is a big part of pushing that story. Candace Owens recently also had Milo Yiannopoulos on her show just a few months ago, actually just like a week or two before Charlie Kirk died. Milo Yiannopoulos is the very same person that came to rescue Candace Owens, came aware of Candace Owens, I guess, struggle after she was then called out after this whole Gamergate thing. Milo Yiannopoulos is an obvious actor. Milo Yiannopoulos now isn't gay anymore. He just told Tucker Carlson. He was just on the Tucker Carlson show. I was gay, now I'm not gay. And, you want to talk about human rights abuses? Let's look at the still ongoing. Do you think it's just a coincidence that there's 10 male babies for every 9 in India? Whatever. Prioritize. If you believe X, you do Y. If you're concerned about the rights of women, you look at that. Now, I'm not saying that we should just start killing male babies instead. I didn't say that. We should just protect and appreciate life and So you can read the rest of the article. I think what the article does show, without a doubt, is it puts Candace Owens, it gives context to the timeline. And Candace Owens is a big part of the Gamergate story. She became a part of it, and you can see how she was steered into it sometime after 2015. Now, this is where I'm just going to throw something out there, okay? If Candace Owens already was working in some Wall Street firm, if she had already moved up to the vice president as an administrator in a private equity firm, she had already, gotten in good with somebody. She was already was viewed favorably somewhere. If this is at all her apartment, she already has some money here. I don't know how that happened. I'm not going to speculate. I could speculate bad things, and I can also give her the benefit of the doubt and assume the best of things. I don't know. There's no value to assessing that. What matters, though, is that she's in good somewhere at this time. Okay. She then starts this Degree 180 service. These blog posts are very childish. I'm not sure that they know exactly where this is going at this time. If her job is to be the future, teammate of Steve Bannon, this doesn't totally line up, but I don't know. It's still, really, you're going to leave a well-paying job as a vice president at a private equity firm to write stupid blog posts? That doesn't line up either. So I don't know how that transition happened. But you can definitely see this is where the action starts. January, February 2016. Connecticut Post is running articles about her. Now I'm just going to throw out one piece of just oddball, just strange. And it probably has nothing to do with it, but I have to put it out there. I started my job at Datto Corporation in middle of September of 2015. I got the job because I wanted to work at a tech company in my home state. I was tired of working in Massachusetts. I was tired of working in California. Connecticut doesn't have a lot of opportunities for tech startups. And I landed a job because I got an interview because I had a brother-in-law who worked at Datto Corporation. They liked me. They couldn't believe that someone from NetApp, a very well-established, well-recognized data storage company, would work at Datto. And I was so happy. And in my first week at Datto Corporation, it's just luck. It's just God bringing me there. I don't know. That's when it became clear that Datto might have had some role with respect to the Hillary Clinton email backups. Now, at the time, I didn't really understand any of this stuff. I mean, I knew what a backup was, of course. Hillary Clinton was on the TV. They were interviewing her in the Senate throughout, September, October, whatever, about those email backups. I thought Datto should have made more noise about it. Like, hey, lead into the controversy. They didn't want anything to do with it. So, continuing on, it's just a few weeks, really, chronologically, after that someone else from Connecticut, remember, Datto's in Norwalk, and she's went to Stanford. Now, she's not in Stanford anymore, but this is just a few weeks after that. Candace Owens is now making videos, going to have this future with this tech company startup that's going to be collecting online profiles for people. I wonder if any investors came into Datto Corporation at that time. In fact, I can even think of the guy. It was actually Parsons, who was one of the biggest supporters of Obama, came in as a venture capital investor into Datto right around that time. I wonder if Parsons' money somehow also found its way to Candace Owens at this time. I'm just throwing it out there. Connecticut Post decided to start doing articles praising her just before the announcement of the Kickstarter. And here I am. Just thrown right in. I don't know. Have I been in the middle of this whole thing that long? I don't know. I just have to throw the idea out there. I have to throw the consideration out there. And with a statement like that, if I still can't have more than 2,083 subscribers on YouTube, in spite of all of the other stories that I broke, I don't know what else to say, guys. You can't believe that the internet is wide open enough to allow Candace Owens to become the most followed, watched, adored, supported, super chatted person in the world, and then also believe that it's still censored. It's one or the other. So that's my show for today, Sunday, December 7th, 2025. Mark Kulak, Houstonic.live. Thank you for watching. Thank you. Take care. Stay positive. It's not about her. It's just what she's in the middle of right now. I am thankful that her visibility has offered us to understand so much about the bigger picture. That's my takeaway. It's all a stage. Actors, actresses, if you believe X, you do Y. They won't say India. There's a good one for you. All right, guys. Thank you. Take care. Be positive. Patreon, PayPal, any support is appreciated. P.O. Box 505, Southborough, Massachusetts. You can get all the information on HoustonITS.com or Houstonic.live. Thank you for watching. Take care, and God bless.